Welcome, guys. Welcome back to another episode of the Black Sheep Podcast. I'm your host, Toshiba Smallwood, guys. And if you haven't had an opportunity to check us out on all our social media platforms, please be sure to go check us out. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to all our social media outlets, guys. We would love to hear from you. If you would like to be a guest on the Black Sheep, be sure to DM us or email us at theblacksheep@gmail.com. Guys, we got a new guest today, Miss Tamara Tucker. Listen, this lady is from my hometown, Lubbock, Texas. It is an honor to have her today to be able to release some of her traumatic experiences, to be on silence. How are you today?
I am doing fine. I want to say, first of all, thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this wonderful podcast. I do watch it on
Absolutely.
YouTube, so
Yes.
I'm glad to be here.
Hey,
Most
make sure to
definitely.
talk to us now. We want to hear from you, okay?
Okay, okay.
That's awesome. And thank you for supporting us. That means a lot to us. And that shows for you even being here and you've been watching that you really believe in us. And so we really take that to heart and we really appreciate it here at Black Sheep. So just to tap right into it, I always talk to people about just on Black Sheep, we want to be released from our traumatic experiences. And I tell people all the time that, you know, when people hear, "Are you a black sheep?" and some people don't realize, well, I'm not a black sheep. I tell people, think about the traumatic experiences that you've been through, right? Sometimes the traumatic experiences that we've been through, we've silenced them and we've held them captive within ourselves, and we don't talk about them, and we don't realize how internalizing those things, how that shows up in our everyday life and our relationships, and all the things that we do because we've allowed ourselves to be silenced by the things that we've been through. And so, as a black sheep, what was your experience as being silenced?
Well, like you said, just being a black sheep, when you're growing up, you hear, oh, they're the black sheep of the family, and and usually that does is a negative
Hmm.
undertone,
Yeah.
with that. I'm the oldest of 9 children, and usually it has when growing up it was four of us most of the time, then five. I always was the person that had to take care of everybody.
Hmm.
When my mom was out there working hard, doing what she had to do, and my stepfather, he was doing all the negative, bringing all the negative, all things that should not have been there. I was trying to make sure that my brothers and my sisters were fed, hair was done, homework was done growing up. And so I was the person that was out in the open, but I was the person that got pushed to the back too,
Right.
because I was verbal,
Right.
because I was the one that either you like me or you don't. I'm gonna say when you're wrong. My stepfather hated that. He hated
Hmm.
the fact that I was gonna speak up. You cannot treat my brother like that. You
Right.
cannot treat my sisters like that. And so that pushed me back, because then that caused issues between my mom and him.
Hmm.
And then so my mom, you can't be that way. You
Right.
can't do that. So being silenced as far as being a very outspoken child, going out, just doing things, but silenced
Hmm.
in the midst of that, because my stepfather didn't want me to be the young lady that God wanted me to be.
Right.
No.
And I can understand, being the oldest of nine, and you're a child yourself and being forced to raise children. And I can see how that was very heavy. I've come from a background of knowing what that feels like. How did you deal with your silence? Like, how did you deal with that when
Um,
you were alone?
you know, it was a lot of tears. It was a lot of writing. I used to write poetry. I sing, did music. Music was my life. When sometimes kids would get a whooping, or in Philly, we would call it a beating. Down here, somebody say beating, that means, oh my gosh, it's child abuse. But down here, it's a whooping. But I wouldn't get whoopings. She would just take my radio, because music was that was my peace. And I
Mhm.
could be listening to Rakim. I could be listening to Fresh Prince. I could be listening to Betty Wright, anything. And that I would just lay in my bed and turn my radio on, and I would cry, and I would because my stepfather might have whooped us, or taking things, or yelling and screaming and just being mean, and so my solace was music,
Mm-hmm.
and writing poetry and things like
Yeah.
that, and even at the time he realized that, and so he tried to take that from me too.
Wow.
Hmm.
And I can see, for that is a great outlet. And I really hope that, if someone is struggling in their silence, that they use those type of outlets to create a safe place for themselves, because a lot of times when we internalize things or we're in our own head, it really be so loud, and that's the
Mm.
way you can get it out,
Hmm.
right? And so was there ever a time, I'm gonna say, dealing even with your mother, was there ever a time where you tried to talk to her about some of the things that you were dealing with at the time and she wouldn't listen?
Mm. I remember one specific time, because growing up in an abusive home, as far as seeing my mom get hit and her working, her doing things, and it's hard because even as an adult, you look back on life and you see, well, my mom did the best that she could, or my dad did the best that he could. So they stayed with that abuser because of the children, or that's the person who could help feed us, or that's the person who could help pay the car payment, or, that was shelter. If I said something, or if I stood up, then I have the possibility of either getting beat, getting kicked out, my kids not having a place to stay. So, when that was a conversation, I remember I was in eighth grade. This is just one situation. And I liked the a guy that was in eighth grade, and he saw me talking to another guy, and he smacked me.
Mm.
And I came home and I told my mom, I said, Mom, he hit me. And she said, Well, what did you do to make him hit you?
Oh, wow.
And at that moment, I said, "What did I do?" So the words at that time made me feel that I have to be silent, because I know what I did. I yelled, I screamed, and all
Right.
that. And so when she turned around and said, "What did you do?" It wasn't, "Let me go talk to him. Let me go
Let
talk to
me
his mom. Let
defend
me,"
you.
yeah. And so it's because of the traumas that she was experiencing
She
in
made
life,
it feel
and
like it
what
was okay.
she saw, that it was, if you stop running your mouth the way that you do,
Mm.
then you wouldn't, have to deal with that. And so even just with my stepdad, and dealing with him at the age of 13, I had to move out.
Mm.
And because it was, again, either the person that's the breadwinner has a job that is going to take care, and I was a reckless kid. I really wasn't a reckless kid. It was just my mouth. I'm going to say whatever. And it's still my mouth,
Right.
still my mouth.
That's
I've
boss.
learned to, put it not in a box, on a line where it needs to be. But it was to the point where I was always trying to protect my brothers and
Right.
sisters. I was always, and really it was my brother more than my sisters, that I was always trying to protect, and he didn't like that. And I'm gonna tell my dad. I'm gonna tell my dad. Trying to just protect us. And so it had got to a point where it was either me or him,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what he said.
Right.
And
And
at
so,
13, I had to leave.
wow. And so from that experience that you just gave us, I mean, that example you gave us from the experience your mother asked you, well, what did you do in that sense that you got smacked? Do you believe that that was one of the reasons why you began to stay silent about the things that you were doing?
Hmm. I do, because when the person that is supposed to fight for you the hardest
Mm, my
doesn't fight
goodness.
for you,
Yeah.
that makes you look at, am I supposed to be fighting?
Right.
So it makes you question your strength. You see outside the house where other families have the mom and the dad, and they're loving and the hugging and all that kind of stuff, and the kids are, hey, they're public speaking, and
Mhm.
their parents are pushing them. And I'm not saying that my mom didn't push, but she just didn't know how,
Right.
because of,
Her own
again,
trauma.
yes, because of her own traumas,
Yeah.
and not realizing that their traumas, what happens in the house stays in the house. You know, don't speak until spoken to. And then, you know, she's working 3 jobs when he's out there putting it up his nose.
Right.
First time that I ever smoked crack cocaine, I was 10 years old.
Wow.
And he had a bong, and he would allow here, smoked it, puffed it, you know. And I remember my mom saying, "Don't do that, don't do that." And he smacked her in front of everybody. And he just thought that it was fun for us to be high. He thought that it was fun for me to do things. And I was a well endowed little girl. You know, I was pretty blessed with all this.
Yeah.
And the men let it be known. So after a while, I thought that it was okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was okay because, oh, look at you, look at you, look at you. It wasn't made to be a negative thing.
It was glorified.
Yeah, it was glorified, you know, even from when I was even the trauma of my babysitter's son touching on me and doing things to me. I, I thought that it was okay because it was my boyfriend. You're my little girlfriend, so you don't say anything. So
Yeah.
so in my eyes, I seen a man and a woman kissing. So I was a girl, he was a boy, and he was kissing me, and he would hug me. He didn't hurt me. It didn't hurt.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that it was wrong because it didn't hurt. And so, you know, that's something that when I had children, I said no one puts their hands there, regardless if it feels good or feels bad, unless mommy is there. And if anybody ever touches you there, even if it feels good, even if it hurts, you let mommy know. Even if they say they're a doctor, if mommy's not in that room, then you don't let them touch you there. Because when people think of molestation or sexual assault, they think of pain. But if a child doesn't feel pain, and if it tickles when someone touches you there, and then they playing a game with you, and no one wants to talk about it, then they don't know that it's wrong. So I was 10 years old, and we were in school, and someone came and talked to the girls. You know, when you have that class where the boys and the girls go their way, and we watched the movie, and one of the ladies says, if anyone has ever put their hands down your pants, or if anyone has ever touched you, or if anyone has ever, and they were older, or they were adult, or I didn't realize that it was wrong until that moment. And it happened to me 6, 7, 8, 9 years old.
Wow. So you didn't even know that was wrong behavior for adults to conduct with a kid.
Not really, because he was like, shh, keep it a secret. This is
Right.
me and your secret. So when you feel like you have a secret with the big kids, and, you know, yeah, you just fitting in.
Right.
And so, yeah, I didn't realize that I had been molested because of the fact that it wasn't a hurting thing. So
And I'm gonna take you to a moment that you spoke briefly about your children and how that has shaped the way you become mommy and you interact with your kids because of the negative behavior that you endured, right? And I can definitely relate to that. I think from my molestations that I've been through, it left me in a place that I was always guarded. I never really wanted my kids to go or do certain things because I was always afraid, and they were boys. And it took me probably um, a significant amount of my adult years before I really even understood that young men get molested too. You know what I mean? And they don't really talk about it a lot. But that was my fear, right? And so it put me in a very controlling state
yeah,
of wanting to control everything because I felt so out of control of what was taken from me,
yeah.
right? So, as a mom, how did you? Because I know at some point your children were like, hey, mom, you know. So how did you deal with that as a mom? Because you, out of your fear
Hmm.
from what you've been through, how did you deal with that?
Well, I have 4 children. I birthed 2
Mhm.
and I adopted 2 when they were 7 and 11. And all 4 of my kids, they're all adults now. But that smothering, that umbrella, you can't go anybody but grandma. You can't go anybody. But it had come to a point that I was in school, I was working, I had to put them in daycare. It had to the point where I was just asking them, "Hey, did something happened to you? Or
Right.
okay? Talk to me. Tell me about your day." Kids will tell you if you're asking. If you're
Hmm.
not asking, they're not telling.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it does make you more protective. Like my daughter now, she has a child, and I mean that baby, she can breathe, but she
Yeah.
don't, and she's just a very protective mom
Right.
because she just wants to make sure nothing happens. But it doesn't matter how protective we are if we're not with our children 24 hours a day.
Right.
We don't know what could possibly happen.
Right.
That's why I pray over my kids. I pray over my grandkids, and I just say, God, please just protect them.
Yeah.
Because we're not there. But when my children were small, I was a counselor for 22 years and I was a drug and sex counselor. My daughter jokes and says, "Mom, I don't think 5 years old was the right time for me to see a penis." I was like, "Well,
You you
they
showed your daughter penis at 5?
well, they saw the pictures. I had to make
Oh,
sure
okay.
you know
It's
what
like,
this is. I had to make sure that we was good. That if
right.
you see something
You
like
want to
this,
teach
you
them.
run.
Yeah.
I'm telling my boys, hey, these girls out here, it's not a game. I mean, I'm telling them it's gonna be falling from heaven, but you don't need all them.
Yeah.
And if it's someone that is, I give you a five-year age range, maybe. But if it's somebody that's my age or a friend of mine or somebody that's an adult, a teacher, you come tell me, you let
Yeah.
me know. So I was very open with my children. Some people don't talk to their children about sex, and I think that is taboo because if you don't talk to them about it, that they're not going to know anything about it. How did you learn?
Mm-hmm.
Did your parents talk to you? And half the time they didn't. So you stop making it that it's a horrible thing and make it's a thing that it's okay because it's normal, but we need to talk about why you shouldn't do it or why
Right. Or
somebody
the best
shouldn't do it.
ways to do it.
Yes,
The safe
the
ways to
safe way
do
to
it.
do it.
Yeah.
Absence is always best when you're children, but if you're not going to do that. So I just tried to be open I'd rather them learn from me rather than learn from their cousin or somebody in school and they wind up with babies galore or with something that they can't get rid of. And
Hmm.
so that's why I chose my mom. You don't need to talk to them about stuff like that. Okay, well,
Right.
but
Right.
that's how I did it.
And when we talk about when I deal with my sexual assault survivors,
Mm,
right? I call them survivors because we made it,
most
right?
definitely, most
And
definitely.
I always tell them that experiencing something like this can really thrust you into any realm
Hmm.
mentally. How did it affect your personal relationships with other men?
So I honestly had blocked out a lot of my situations until I was 30. And it's crazy because I was very promiscuous.
Yep.
First time I ever had sex, I was 13 and I was getting it in. I'm talking about I had partners and yeah, it was like sometimes I felt like if I couldn't have sex 3 times with 3 different dudes and it was nothing, it wasn't because of an emotional connection at all. I was getting it in like
Mhm.
yeah, I'm thinking. Like
Right.
I was dancing. I was in the sex industry. I was doing a lot.
Hmm.
And I finally was in bed one night and I said, "Why am I this way?" I
Hmm.
had kids. But I didn't bring people to the house. The kids never seen, but I still was doing what I was doing. And I said, "Why am I this way?" I didn't like me,
Right.
And finally I laid down. I think I was like between 28 and 30. I don't know really what day. But I said, why? God, please just show me why I'm like this. Because I honestly blocked that out as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I woke up, and the only thing I could do was see my babysitter's son
Mm-hmm.
in my face. And it was so crazy because Facebook was, or MySpace was out then. And he came across my MySpace. Never did he come across my MySpace before. But I was like, Mimi. And, it still, it was there, but it wasn't there. And I liked him or invited him, whatever we was doing with MySpace. And oh my goodness, how are you? You're grown, da 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 da. And he's like, man, I would just love to see you. And then I just started thinking, just the way he wasn't talking like reckless, but he was just talking to me. And I was just, it just started kind of
Coming
going.
back.
And then a couple days later passed, and I said, this man did some things to me, and I could think about it. And I cried and I cried and I cried. And I can't blame him for every man that I laid down with, every
Right.
woman I laid down with. I can't blame him for that. But I think because I was always searching for that first feeling, that tickle feeling. I think that's what it was. I was searching for that feeling of that it was okay to be the way that I was, because sex to me was just like working out. You get that adrenaline, you're working out and
Right.
you're feeling good and you're ready. And then, oh man, because it was never a connection as far as a mental or emotional, my
Right.
heart.
Right.
Because I didn't really know. I mean, I had boyfriends and stuff, but I had a couple boyfriends at the same time. Like I didn't, yeah, this is my boyfriend, but I didn't know really how to have a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so moving forward to, you know, when I graduated from college, I became a drug and sex counselor because of the fact that I wanted to help people that was dealing with stuff like me and couldn't talk about it,
Right.
and didn't realize where it came from.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been to the jails, been to the porno stores, to the clubs, to uh, the elderly homes, assisted living. I'm on the streets with the
Right.
prostitutes. I've done everything,
Mm-hmm.
and then when they want to get out, I try to help them get a
Right.
safe haven for that, because
That's awesome.
everybody's dealing with something and they don't even sometimes realize why they're dealing with it
Right.
because they have tuned it out. Okay, if I lay down with this guy, I'll just get money. It doesn't mean anything to me.
Mhm.
So when someone is dealing with that's what I do. So um I I had just tried to I contacted him when I went to Philly probably about 6 or 7 years ago. And he was driving around in a white van. And you know what the white van signifies,
Mhm.
and he was like, you can come and get in the van. I said, no, I want you to come on, let's go eat. And so I met up with him, and I didn't tell him why. Brought him lunch and stuff like that. And I hadn't seen this man since I was probably 10 years old.
Mhm.
I'm about to be 50. And he sat down, and I just said, you know what? I just need to tell you something. After he ate, he was asked, because I found out that he had touched my sister.
Wow.
And my sister's 6 years younger than me. If I was 8, 9.
She was
So
young.
yes.
She was
So it
very
was
young.
just a lot. It was a lot. Because I really just wanted to reach over that table and punch him in the face. That's
Right.
honestly what I wanted to do. But I knew that wasn't gonna take it off of me.
Right.
So I told him, I remember what you did to me.
Right.
I remember. So
Mhm.
that's how I dealt with my trauma. And
Right.
he looked at me. I said, you touched me in ways that no man should touch a
Right.
child. And I said, you hurt me.
Right.
I never hurt you. You hurt me mentally.
Right.
You didn't hurt me physically, but you
Yeah.
hurt. I said, so because of what you did to me,
Mhm.
it caused my life to go in a whirlwind that it
Yeah.
did not have to go in.
Yeah.
But I know now that
Right.
I'm taking it off of me
Right.
and I'm giving it to you,
Right.
because I know that you hurt other children. I
Right.
know that you did some things. I never touched anybody else. No, yes, you did.
Mhm.
You drive around in a white van like a pedophile. And I said, and that's scary.
Right.
That's scary. I said, if the statute of limitations were not out, I said, you'd be in jail right now because
Right.
of me. So I'm taking it off of me.
Right.
You can have it. And he just start crying. I'm sorry it happened to me when I was young and da 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 da.
Wow.
And people let it happen to me. And we're sitting in a restaurant. People are looking and he's talking loud and everything. I said, well, I can't help what happened to you.
Right.
You needed to get help instead
Yeah.
of taking my childhood from me.
Right.
And so I felt so good. I
That's
felt
good.
so liberated. I
Right.
felt so, you
Right.
know, and I dealt with that.
Mhm.
And so I'm I can't say I'm good, but I mean my whole life is different
Right.
now. And I know that to be able to help people and to be able to speak up and to be able to say
Right.
it's okay to talk. It's
Right.
okay to say tell your story.
And with your counselor background, here on Black Sheep, we always encourage people to use therapy as a tool to help them overcome and come through.
Mhm.
Are you still doing the work for yourself?
Mhm.
Because I just believe healing is a reoccurring thing. We have to
Mhm.
continue to heal, guys. We have to continue to seek therapy.
Exactly.
Sometimes we may not never know what would trigger us. You know, a song can trigger us, a word can trigger us, you know, a bad day, guys. And so when those times happen or those things happen, having a go to, are you still doing the work for yourself?
Yeah, therapists need therapists.
Yes.
No matter what it is, it
Yeah.
doesn't everybody needs somebody to
Right.
talk to. And you know, I heard you say in one of your segments that even if you don't have a therapist, have somebody to talk
Talk to.
to. Have somebody that this is so raw and open. They'll tell you when you're right, when you're wrong. They'll listen to your ins and outs. Have somebody, well, I can't afford therapy. I can't afford counseling. There's so many free
Mhm.
counseling sites that you can just go online and do it. Or, you know, you have that one person that is non-judgmental. They
Mhm.
just don't judge you for anything.
Right.
Or you can call me.
Yeah.
Doesn't, you know,
Oh, you can call me.
yeah, or you can call Black Sheep. But you
Right.
know,
Absolutely.
it's all it's so important. You know, you hear Black people don't go to therapy, and it's so
And
frustrating
we
to
need it the
hear that.
most.
Yes,
We need it
because
the
we have
most.
so much trauma of all
Yeah.
kinds, and it's okay that what happens in his house stays in his house mentality. That's how come so many people are jacked up
Right.
because somebody is there that can help you.
Right. And
Hmm.
I heard you say also, you spoke a few times about your prayer life and how that's helped you come through. And again, guys, I'm always going to encourage to have a relationship with a higher power, our God, that you serve, to pour your needs out, and your cries and your deepest thoughts out too. And so I commend you for still staying connected to your
Oh,
source,
most definitely.
because that's very important, you know, and not just when we need something, but as we continue to go through something, you
Mhm.
know, when we want something in advance, you know, or when we need some fix right away. I believe God is a big God and He can do all things. So I'm really
Mhm.
happy to hear that. And I definitely want to encourage you to continue to do the work,
Oh yeah.
right? You know, at Black Sheep, we also will be offering courses, and anytime that need, you might need some more resources. You know, you can definitely reach out to us. If we don't have it, we'll make sure we can get it for you,
Most
or
definitely.
if you know someone that's going through something, we would love to talk to them. You know, and it doesn't always have to be on this platform.
Most definitely.
I do a lot of one-on-one sessions, guys. Um, some of us are not just we're not ready to walk in it quite yet, and that's okay.
Mm.
That's perfectly fine. But the ones that who are, I always tell people that you may not know that your freedom and you unsilencing yourself, it could really truly be connected to someone else's healing. So I always encourage people to talk about their trials and their tribulations that they've been through. So, Miss Tucker, I appreciate you coming out. The hometown friend right here.
Yes, most
I
definitely,
definitely
most definitely.
appreciate it. And
Hmm.
I look forward to working with you some
Oh,
more,
most definitely. And
and
if
even
anyone
having you
needs to,
back.
and if you ever need me to help you with some of your classes, most definitely. I'm
Absolutely.
here
I
to help.
appreciate
Yeah,
that. We
somebody might
definitely
want to, talk to me. I'm hey, Miss Tammy's here.
absolutely, we appreciate that. And listen, guys, here at Black Sheep, as always, remember the things that you don't talk about are the things that we want to talk about. I see you next time on Black Sheep. Goodbye.
Bye.